Well, here we go. Really excited to have 17-year-old goaltender Nate Secrest on the Rising Champions podcast. I'm Kyle Bogey, of course. We got Dr. Jason Novetsky, and Nate, really excited to talk a little bit more about, your journey and everything that you've kind of been through very early on here in your hockey career. I have a lot of questions personally on the psyche, that involves being a goaltender in hockey and staying locked in for 3 full periods when some of the action might not be on your end. We'll get to some of that in just a little bit. But I guess to start, can we run through, some of, the history and I guess the steps that you've taken to get to this point and the opportunity that you're going to be embarking on here?
Yeah. So a few years ago, I played for, let me think. I think it was okay. So I started my first travel team. I started out with the USA Spirit. That was it was AA. I think that was when I was about 11. So I was just, it was my first travel team. I was super hyped about it, and it wasn't too great of a season, but just kept going through with it. I decided to change to Little Caesars Farmington Hill Hills next year, which again was AA. I hadn't really started AAA tryouts yet, so. Same kind of thing there. It wasn't too great. So I started doing AAA tryouts the year after that. And I mean, I think I did pretty good at them, but I ended up getting cut. So then I ended up going to Royal Oak, and that was probably one of my most favorite teams, my most favorite travel teams so far. Love the guys there. They were awesome. All the parents were really nice. Coaches were great. But we lost districts. I actually had my first tournament win there, which was really good. So, yeah, but we ended up losing districts. Some stuff went down in the spring, so I ended up changing too. That's when I really started getting to AAA. I was going to a bunch of AAA teams. Just to name a few, I was going to Honey Baked, OJG, I think Bell Tire, but I ended up getting cut again, which kind of sucks. So, but that year was I was invited to the Austin Bruins Futures Camp. So I was really hyped for that. They're in the NAHL. So I went there. They gave me my review. They said I did really good. They said I put me on their young guns list. So I was really, really happy with that going into the next season. But again, got cut from AAA. So I ended up playing with Jimmy Johns the year after that, AA. We played in the NJPHL, which was basically a AAA league. So that was probably one of my worst seasons of ever that I can remember. So, yeah, after that, that's when I really started going out into junior camps. So I went to the Muskegon Lumberjacks Futures Camp and the Austin Bruins pre-draft camp in the same weekend. So that was a tough one. Let me think.
So you've been on lots of opportunities you've had to make various teams, and
there's so many.
You've faced a lot of setbacks. You faced some injuries.
Mm-hmm.
Talk to us a little bit about how you dealt with that.
Okay, so my injury. This is a really big one. So I was put out on groin. I had to get groin surgery. That one put me out for about a month or two in the summer. So I had to put all my training on hold, all my workouts, everything like that. But and I was basically just stuck in the bed for a month or two. I was pretty bored. I was just lazy. I was kind of angry. I wasn't able to skate, stuff like that. But first day back on the ice, I did the best I could. I wasn't pushing myself too much, but I think I did fairly good for not being on the ice for 2 months. But after that, I just kept putting in the work. I was skating every single day. That's when I started doing private lessons with my goalie coach, AJ Walichek. Huge props to him. He's a great coach. I love working with him. And at the same time, I was working at Puck Masters. So I love those guys. They're like a second family to me. I've been going up there since I was 12.
Hey, Nate, let me back up to the groin injury, because as a goalie, that's got to be incredibly tough. And
yeah.
And I've worked with a lot of athletes that, have a significant injury, like a knee for a football player or an elbow for a baseball player. And man, for a goalie, a groin, it's got to be extremely hard, because you got to be able to push off both sides and then spread your legs, and things like. Talk to us a little bit about, how did you first get over the hump of just coming back the first time on the ice, you know, after physical therapy and like test it out? That must have been incredible.
Yeah, it was. It felt like I was climbing a mountain or something.
Mm.
First day back on the ice, it was just like it was like there was a weight on my shoulders. But after the first session, I felt like that weight was lifted, and you know, I felt like I could get back to normal and get back into things. But another really big thing that, you know, that injury affected me, that was I missed AAA tryouts that year, so that was probably my best year. Well, I really improved that year, so I really thought I was going to be playing AAA the year after that, but you know, the injury put me out of tryouts, so I was not able to.
You know, it's interesting that you mentioned, you know, being cut, you know, multiple times and all that. And, you know, you're obviously on a different level, you know, than I was. But I remember, you know, even back in 8th grade, there was an A team, there was a B team in basketball. And I ended up getting cut. I was a 16th guy on a 15-man roster, so I had to be on the B team. And, you know, the A team ended up having this older coach who really wasn't all that good. And all those guys didn't go on to high school and play varsity basketball. I got the better coach, the younger coach, the motivated coach that told me at that time, hey, you're going to shove it up there, you know what, and prove that they were wrong, you know, to cut you then. And I remember that next year, freshman year of high school, I took that. And in the last tryout, there was one final sprint. I was like, you know what, I'm going to try and make this team. I ended up being the last guy that made that team. And I took that and used that as motivation. Is that a similar thing, I guess, that you've done over the years with those situations for you?
Yeah, over the years, I've really figured out just to don't really listen to what other people are saying to you, like not in like, you know, an arrogant way, but just block out all the negative stuff, you know, just focus on yourself, just focus on improving yourself and just doing the best you can. So
wow, Nate, so you've had a tough road, and now you've been playing hard as you can and preparing physically and mentally on and off the ice, and then you had to deal with COVID and all that, you know, kind of put a barrier between you and the goals that you do have moving forward now?
So some of my goals, one of them is shut out my first game. That's always been a goal of mine, but I feel like this year I can really achieve that. The past few years, I feel like I haven't really been in the right frame of mind, and I haven't really mentally had it together. Another goal I have is
hold on. Let's pause real quick. You're cutting out pretty good there. Is that me or is that you guys? You guys? Okay.
It might be you.
It might be me. Okay.
So
you
froze. Still with us?
Nate froze. I just want to make sure.
I'm still here.
I just want to make sure that it's recording okay. You know, okay. So maybe
Sully, step away. I don't know where he went.
Oh. Okay. We all right?
Yeah, I'm good. I can hear and see you guys.
Yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. I think it just had to. All right. So let's just. I think it must have been me. So let's restart at Doc asking about that last question essentially, and we'll go from there. 3, 2.
So Nate, you've obviously been through a lot, and you've had lots of ups and downs, and then you had to deal with COVID and the shutdown and everything, and kind of got in the way of all your goals. So with that in mind, tell us a little bit about the goals that you have at this point, moving forward, some of the result-oriented goals, and maybe also focusing on the process that we talked about as well.
So for last year, I don't know if there's like before all the shutdowns to everything, but I feel like it's still an important thing to say. One of my process goals, was to gain 10 pounds by February. I ended up not doing it by February, but you know, since the shutdown, I've been really on just bearing down on the grind. I ended up gaining 10 pounds, plus I ended up growing 3 inches, I believe. So that really helped. Especially as a goalie, my head was like maybe 4 inches from the net, but now my forehead's like covering it right now. So that's really nice.
And so moving forward too, what are the plans for you as we move forward?
So one of my big plans is I just received an offer from the El Paso Rhinos of the NA3. So
nice.
I'm open if I can get down there. I'm hoping to make an impression on those guys. You know, be the best I can. But some of my goals for that team: get a shutout in my first game, win my first game, stuff like that. get at least a .930 save percentage, get 5 shutouts.
So do you find that those kind of results-based goals focus and motivate you, or do sometimes those things a distraction?
I feel like they motivate me, especially when you combined it with all the other mental aspects that we've been working on and all the training that you've helped me out with. I feel like if you visualize yourself, getting a shutout in your first game, you'll be able to do it. If you like, you see yourself doing it, you'll be able to do it. If you put your mind to it, you can do it.
So Kyle, it's very interesting. As I taught Nate how to do visualization, and he had some of those skills on his too. But Nate, tell him how you visualize and the apparatus that you use to do it.
Yeah.
I think this is very interesting.
What I would do is I would go in my room, I'd shut the light off. I kind of changed it up a little bit, but the basic one that I used to do was I would go in my room, just think about what I want to visualize for like 5 minutes, something like that. I would close my eyes. I would put my helmet on. I would bring my actual goalie helmet, and I would put it on, and I would just sit there and think about. I would visualize some drills that I'm doing for my skate that day, or I'd visualize one of my really good performances in my games, and I feel like that's really tremendously improved my level of play.
So I've always wondered this. It's a 60-minute hockey game, sometimes longer, if there's potentially overtime, whatever it may be. And the action isn't always in front of you. Sometimes there's situations where, maybe it's all on the other end. Maybe you're only getting 10, 15 shots that game, whatever it may be. But then when that critical moment comes, you have to be mentally and physically locked in and ready to go. How do you, on the other end of the ice, the other end of the action, potentially stay within that moment so that you're ready when it does come back on your end?
Yeah, so this is really interesting. I used to struggle with that a lot, actually. When I would have games, when I would have like 5-10 shots, I would have a huge problem with, my team, one of my defensemen giving a turnover, and then I'm getting a breakaway. I'd usually end up getting scored on that because I'm not mentally focused. But recently, what I found is I just focus in on the play, just block out everything else. Even this is actually kind of interesting. I learned this from another goalie coach I had worked with briefly. His name's Steve McKeekin. He runs Future Pro goaltending school. He worked with a guy that he showed me. He put out a video. It was this technique. It was like you would commentate to yourself what's going on in the game. So it'd be like, and it's like an actual NHL announcer in your own head. You know what I'm saying? Like,
wow.
Yeah, it's
really
really
interesting. So you're doing like play-by-play in your own mind.
Yeah, it's running
to stay focused.
Yeah, it's like running the play-by in your head. It's actually really helpful. And then I know what me and you have worked on with flushing it all out, like brushing the ice out in the crease, and then there's another thing where I would just focus on one random thing and just think about that random thing. And if I got scored on, I would just think about that random thing and try to block out all the negativity from the goal.
Yeah. So what he's talking about there, Kyle, is a way to recover from a tough situation, and recover from adversity. So we talked a lot about, a stoplight technique that a lot of people have talked about. Ken Ravizza in baseball have talked a lot about this with their baseball players, that pretend your mind is like a traffic light. And when everything's good, it's green, everything's a go. But sometimes something bad happens and then your light turns yellow. And what you're supposed to do on the road when your light turns yellow is slow down. But most people speed up. And that's when a lot of athletes get into trouble when this game starts going too fast for them. So we taught Nate how to recognize that by understanding what his mental traps are when he's getting distracted. And then he would do things like, stop, first of all, flush out any of the problems, and he could flush out some of the snow from his crease, or knock some of the snow off of his skates, or tap the goalpost from side to side, or skate around in a circle around the net, and then just take a nice deep breath, and also focus on something random, like you said, pick something out in the stands or a flag, and just stare at it for a couple seconds if he could, without getting too distracted, and then return himself back to some positive performance statements. Which could just be reminding him to get in good position, keep his hands up, put his knees in certain spots, and then he was back in the present moment. And that's what the thing, as a goalie, you need to try to do, as you said, Kyle, because the action's not always at your end. So it's really hard to stay present all the time. And so that's something that Nate's had to really work hard on.
And one
So I
thing
guess utilizing.
I just want to add on
go
that
ahead.
real quick. So one thing that I've really found with living in the present is most goalies, you either live in the past or the future. You either think about what's coming down at you, or you are thinking about the crappy goal that you let in 5 minutes ago. And just one thing that you really have to do as a goalie is you just have to stay in the present. You just have to follow the play as it's coming down. You can't think about what's going to happen next or what has already happened, because it doesn't matter, because it hasn't happened yet or it's already happened.
So I guess moving forward here, and I don't know when you'll necessarily be back in action, or when things will get going here, depending on what goes on. But what are the next steps specifically? Do you know when you'll go somewhere, when things might get started, or is there still uncertainty for you?
There's a bit of uncertainty. So as I said, I received an offer from the El Paso Rhinos, but I still have yet to sign. But I know their training camp is September 10th. So if I do end up signing there, that's where I'll be. But other than that, it's pretty uncertain. I'm supposed to have a junior A camp in Canada, but with the border shut down, it's probably not going to happen. And then I have the NCDC combine coming up this weekend, and then I have a USHL camp after that. So just have to see what happens with those and just move forward.
And the amazing thing I admire so much about Nate is that no matter what happens, he just keeps moving forward. I mean, this guy comes into the office and it's this setback or this setback, and a lot of positives too, obviously. But man, every time I turn around, he's already got something else that's next. He's always focused on the next thing. And I think that's what's going to, propel him forward moving in the future, because he just has that mindset. Hey, that's over with. That didn't work out. What's next? He's got that real positive outlook.
Well, I got to believe that it will suit you well moving forward. And obviously, best of luck. Hopefully things can get started here normally. I don't know necessarily that they will, but it sounds like you can kind of work your way through a little bit of everything. So, certainly we wish you the best of luck in that. And we really appreciate you joining us here on the Rising Champions podcast, Nate.
Yeah, thank you. Thanks for having me.
Good to see you, Nate. Take care, bud. We'll see you soon.
Thanks, you too.